Hey everyone, welcome to Friday with Fran. We took the week off last week to celebrate Easter, so I hope that you missed us as much as we missed you. We do very much enjoy being with you. I am Shelley, and this is Fran and Cooper. How are you guys today?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
So many different ways.
Yeah.
Welcome. Oh my.
Oh, hey,
how are you
that's
coming
me.
in? That's you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm only at my house. I don't know how I was coming in twice at your house.
I'm test running something.
Oh, hi, Greg. Thanks for being here today.
Greg's with us.
Yeah.
Yay, Greg.
I see on Greg's Facebook page yesterday that he and Maddie did a whole cooking spread. So, here I come again.
I don't know what's going on. What in the world?
There's an echo. Oh.
Echo. My technology is failing me today.
Oh, it's
going to happen
overwhelmed.
again. It is overwhelmed. Are you streaming to this page too?
I should be in all three places. Yeah, I should be. It says we're live in all three places. I don't have them up, so I don't know.
I'm clicking. That's why you're hearing yourself.
Ah, I see.
Oh, should I open my blind so you can see me better?
If you want. I didn't know if you needed the dark today for some reason, so I didn't want to.
Well, I do need the dark actually, but
okay.
Well, I want you to be able to see me, so
we can see you. I mean, you just look very tan today.
Okay, so we'll go with the tan look.
Okay. Oh, well, there. See, now that you turned your screen on, now you just got brighter anyway.
I turned it to full screen or I took away full screen.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you're a little tan. You're not as tan as you were just a minute ago. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Who else is with us? I'm waiting for Alex. And Alex, we will talk about balance.
Alex will not be with us. She has therapy today.
Oh, all right. Well, we are still going to talk about balance. Good, Greg. Greg says our dinner was so elaborate last night. We almost felt overwhelmed.
Did you? But did you get it cooked? Was it cooked well?
Did it taste good? Was it successful?
Can you tell us about it? You're making me hungry. Ask Shelley what I was doing right before we started.
Yeah, she wouldn't let me. The reason we were late is because she was eating. So, but that's okay. We all have to eat.
Hunger.
That's good. You need to have that. So I'm going to read the definition from, I don't know if this is dictionary.com or where exactly this dictionary definition comes from, but the word overwhelmed means to bury or drown beneath a huge mass. It can also mean to defeat completely or to give too much of a thing to someone. And so, and there's lots more. I mean, I could pull up lots more definitions, I'm sure. So one of the questions the question I think that I had asked in the description for today to our guests was, can you be overwhelmed in a good way? So we'll get to that a little bit later. Greg says Chef Maddie cooked, so you know it was delicious. This is true.
Well, when do I get some Chef Maddie cooking?
As she invites herself over.
Hi, Jill. Oh, I'm sorry. Meg, I was inviting myself over.
That's okay.
This is my friend Jill.
Hi, Jill.
I asked her to join us today.
Awesome. So, I don't know where Mike is today, but, Mike has invited the Friday with Fran people for a cookout. So maybe when we have our cookout with Mike, we can also have Chef Maddie, and it can be like a potluck.
Oh, that would be fun. So where's the determination of potluck, though? Potluck. Is it like you bring a pot and you're hoping you luck out
with the good food
or the bad food?
You hope that it goes with what everybody else brought?
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I have lots of chipmunks today. I'm just giving you a heads up. So would you please, for my benefit, reread the definition of overwhelmed?
Oh, I closed it already.
Oh.
That's okay. I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay, here it is.
So
It says,
yes.
it says bury or drown beneath a huge mass, or defeat completely, or give too much of a thing to someone. Inundate. So it gives you another word to look up if you don't know what inundate means. Greg invited us over when he gets into his new house.
Oh, cool.
Currently, he and Maddie are in an apartment, and they've just recently purchased a new house, and well, new to them. And
congratulations, Greg and Maddie.
They will be moving soon. I don't know the exact date. We don't need to know. You don't need to share that. But yeah, we're very happy for you. Congratulations. I can't wait to see it. Still in the town where he lives now, so she's not going to be having to get used to a whole lot of new things,
or
and neither is he.
Perhaps overwhelming.
Yes. So Fran, you called me earlier and you said, I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Yes.
What was overwhelming you? And hang on a second, sorry. Think about that. Hold on a minute. I forgot to tell people, as they already are doing, to comment, to tell us if you're with us. And if you feel or have felt overwhelmed ever, let us know about it. We want to talk about this. We want to know that we're not the only ones who have ever been overwhelmed or are overwhelmed currently. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead now.
You expect me to retain a thought for that long? Okay.
I was going to cut you off again just to be honorary.
Yes, I could tell that, but I was going to just continue because I would totally lose that thought. Okay, so remember this many times ago, I was at an undisclosed location.
Yes.
Well, my undisclosed location was I was getting an extended stay at a medical care facility that was trying to determine why I was not doing well.
Yes.
So that was my undisclosed location. But since that time, well, even probably prior, yes, I had come to the grips. Okay, I had a stroke 3.5 years ago. I've learned those numbers. I have no idea how long ago that was, but that's how long ago it was.
Okay.
But I've come to the realization that I could still accomplish quite a few things physically. I just had to find a different way to do it. However, I can't. It's not that I won't. It's not that I don't want to. I can't do things physically now that I, in the past, even since my stroke, had been able to. So I was overwhelmed because I have a few things that require physical ability.
Right.
And I could do a bit of it, but if I choose to do that bit of it, I will then be worthless to do anything else. And I also have other things that don't require physical, but that I can do sitting in front of a computer, or I don't have to physically be doing as much. So I was feeling very overwhelmed. Oh, I'm going to have a cat in a second. I was feeling very overwhelmed with the fact that if I do these things that I don't have to physically do, I was feeling guilty because those physical things were still sitting there, and they were a higher priority than the things in which that I could do sitting in front of a computer. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So I was feeling guilty, and I was feeling worthless, and just as your definition, that's why I wanted to make sure I heard your definition correctly. I was feeling buried. I was drowning, inundated, like all of the above kind of applied. It would have been that check, this one, if for all of the above.
Yeah.
So, but in the same sense, there's this song that's really cool, and I'm not even going to sing it because I don't want it to kick us off of streaming for licensing purposes, but the title of it is called Overwhelmed. But the thing about that is it talks about being overwhelmed by all of God's promises and all the things that he can do for us, and how faithful he is in all of the providing for our needs. So I had a choice especially after you and I had touched base prior, was, am I going to continue to be overwhelmed and drown and get buried under everything that I can't do and have to do? Or am I going to get my eyes looking upward and try to focus on the promises that God has and be overwhelmed knowing that He will provide and take care of all of those needs?
Yeah.
And I would like to say that I flipped that switch and I'm doing great. And I'm totally focused, looking upward instead of inward or out around me. And I'm not buried, but that's not the case. But I do know that for me, that is one of the biggest helps when I am overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I would agree that is the same for me. And I have certainly had multiple times in my life when I was overwhelmed. And Greg says, yeah, getting the new house has me overwhelmed, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom says, yeah, when she was taking care of my grandma and taking care of my brother and I, and taking care of Grandma and Grandpa's house and our house as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for, my grandmother was sick for 7 years. From the time she had her first diagnosis of cancer until she passed away. And my mom was her main caregiver. We lived the closest. So, and she's the baby of the family. And those two things seem to always be the factors that determine, sorry, my earpiece just fell out, you know, who takes care of a loved one. And,
Right.
you know, I have been overwhelmed with technology, learning new technology. You've helped me through some of that, and I'm stuck again. I have a video I have to edit, and I was like, oh no, what's all the steps that I went through the last time? So I just set it aside because it was overwhelming me, and I'm like, nope, I'm tired. You know, I know that I know that it'll come to me. I just have to step away from it for a minute.
Okay.
And when you were talking to me earlier today and just now too, I think something that has helped me, I can't read what it says. I see it's a silly face, but what does it say?
Stressed out.
Oh, for some reason, you're like, all your words are backwards. In the past, I don't know if you did.
I didn't mirror image my camera. Let me see if I can do that while you and I are talking. Sorry.
So, yeah, because I'm like, I know I can normally read the stuff that you show me, but I cannot read anything that you're sharing today.
I apologize.
That's okay. No, it's fine. I just wanted you to know I was not able to read what you were sharing. Yeah, same, Greg. When I feel overwhelmed, I tend to procrastinate and pretty much do nothing, because then you think, well, I just don't know where to start. And I have this, you know, list this long of things that have to be done, and I'm never going to get them done. And so you talk yourself out of doing any of them. I had a time last year when I was feeling very overwhelmed. There was just a lot of things, and they had time, several of them had time constraints on them. And I told Kevin that I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was like, and I have this and this and this and this and this and that, you know, all these things have to be done. And he said, write them down. And I was amazed that when I wrote them all down, and then I looked at them, and I'm a checkoff person. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and when I wrote down everything, it was this many notebook pages long that I was thinking of that I needed to do. But then I could go through, and once I could start checking them off, and then I could also prioritize them. Like, okay, these are the things that are the most time sensitive or have the closest date due, you know, so focus on those. And that really helped me be able to get it out of my brain, which is, I mean, that's a scientific thing, is if you can get it out of your brain, then your brain doesn't dwell on it so much. So it really is a helpful tool
to write it
down, or even if you don't write it down, if you have a recorder of some sort and you just say it and something else records it. That way you can tell your brain, okay, it's out. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to process that. and then you can process it. And that relaxes your brain and actually helps get rid of that overwhelmed feeling. But I needed to go to Kevin and tell him that I was overwhelmed. I was not able to recognize, even though I know all the stuff that I just told you, I wasn't able to recognize that on my own.
And society, unfortunately, when we reach out to somebody else, tends to see that as a weakness rather than a strength. When we say, hey, I need to run something by you, I need help sorting something out, people tend to think, well, why can't you do it on your own? Suck it up, buttercup, just get it done.
Right. And, you know, I was just, as you were talking about that, and I was thinking about the strength of things, you know, I'm thinking about buildings. I'm thinking about bridges. No building or no bridge is held up by one pillar or one cable. Like I'm thinking about like bridges that I've seen, even the ones that are supported without pillars. They're not just
like suspension bridges.
Yeah, they're not supported by just one cable. They have to have multiple cables, or they have to have multiple pillars in order to be their strongest and to take the most weight bearing.
And so why is it okay for a bridge to have multiple pillars, multiple cables? And why do we think that no man is an island? Why do we think that we are an individual okay, why this is a multifaceted question.
Do I need something to write down so I get them all?
You might. And there may be no alliteration on this one because it's just flying out. But why do we personally think we have to do it alone? Why does society think we should do it alone? And why are we deemed a failure when we can't do it alone? Yet, some of the strongest people in the world are only there as the strongest and most influential people because they have such a strong support team supporting them, the cables, the pillars, the bases underneath them. They just happen to be the one who is the spokesperson.
Okay.
Why is it okay for the most influential?
Why do we think we have to do it all on our own? Because we're selfish. We're selfish in the fact that we want to be able to say, I did it by myself. I didn't need anybody else.
Pride.
Yes. Now, this isn't a conscious thing. And I'm honestly, like, as you're saying it, it's coming out of my mouth. Like, I don't think about these things. I don't think, oh, I'm not going to ask anybody because I'm prideful and I want to be able to say that I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it, I think. And Jill says, unrealistic expectations we all put on ourselves creates overwhelming and guilt feelings. Yes.
So true.
And
unrealistic.
Yes, unrealistic is huge. Okay. Yeah. So the second part of your question, why does society say that we have to do it on our own? I don't know. I think it probably is somewhat selfish as well, because we don't
want to be bothered by other people's we don't want to be burdened down by other people's needs or feel that we need to carry their load for them.
Yep. So selfish. It does come back to being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Selfish with
and then how do you tie it up? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And then, so you and I are both adults, or at least outwardly. At least,
come on.
Let me define this a little better. At least outwardly chronologically, we are adults.
Okay. All right, fine.
And because of that, and we've had many life experiences. Yet our students, our children, our young adults that we've raised, we have those same expectations for them.
Yeah.
Yet we say, well, why didn't you ask me for help? Well, the last time you asked me for help, you said, why are you asking me for help? Figure it out. How are you going to learn if you ask me for help?
Right. And we do need, I feel, to try to do things on our, there you go, balance. We have to have balance. And that's actually one of the pictures that popped into my head earlier when I was thinking about the bridge, was thinking about the balance scales. You know, they're like the only things that I think about that.
I'm so sorry. It was a chipmunk, but it's your mom's chipmunk.
I know,
you gotta blame on your mom.
I have to admit that I have an adult daughter. Come on now. No. Yeah, well, so do I. So
That was so adultish.
You have an adult daughter and an adult granddaughter. So there.
Ooh, she just threw down the gauntlet there. Mom, you better watch out. And Greg, go ahead. You finish and then we'll let.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to Greg. I got to tell you, though, if you all saw my mom, you could not tell that she has an adult daughter and adult granddaughter, because people see her and I together and they think that we are sisters. She looks at least 20 to 25 years younger than her chronological age. So, and yeah, again, chronological adult versus mentality and behavior. My mom is one of the I'll tell you a funny story. Sorry, Greg. I'm gonna tell a funny story and then we'll get to you. So a while back I was talking to Kevin and I was saying, you know, that mom is in such great shape, and he's like, yeah, he says, we got to do something to change, you know, the fact that she's in way better shape than what we are. He says, how do we get her to stop exercising so much?
Your mom's wondering what you're buttering her up for. You wanting a special home cooked meal, a pie? You want her to do something for her?
I'm not buttering you up. You're the one that's been telling me the stories lately of how people are like, there's no way you have a 50-year-old daughter and she's the baby of your family. So yeah, Greg says reaching out is definitely a strength, but I still resist asking for help. I'm getting better asking for help now, but I still have a long way to go. And I think that goes back to
awesome, Greg. That is
yeah,
really awesome.
And
to realize where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. You get a gold star for that one.
Woo! Hand clap, deaf hand clap, or regular hand clap.
It's a city no.
And that brings me back to the original statement that you were saying, you know, like, why do we tell our kids, why didn't you ask me for help? But then we're also telling them, well, you need to learn to do this on your own. We don't want to be completely dependent on people. We want each of us to reach our own potential. But at the same time, we are going to come to a point where there's going to be something outside of our scope. And for me, that's pride. That's hard for me to admit. I can't do this on my own. I have to have another cable. I have to have another pillar. So again, it comes back to pride and selfishness. And that's why we don't ask. And that's why, you know, society keeps telling us that we have to. And I think the last point that you brought up of, you know, when we talk to people and we find out that this person that we think is so strong and is the voice of a organization or the spokesperson, you know, the face of something that we think, wow, they've done this all their own. And they have at some point in their lives recognized, as Greg just said, it's a strength to reach out. We don't all do it perfectly, but when we reach out, we become stronger together.
And that is like my tag. it's a tagline I've kind of created, that thing, that caregivers thing, that for which I've been kind of like hyperly, overly overwhelmed, involved with.
Right.
With I always say, a person speaking's voice is a whisper, but all those whispers, all those voices joined together are a roar. And I just keep saying we're stronger together. And
Absolutely.
it is so true. And in the Word, even I was reading it just the other day, where it was talking about how the Lord he wants us to, well, not only just sharpen. I mean, that's a scripture you and I come back to over and over and over again, but also that we're there to teach, to rebuke, to edify each other. We're not supposed. He didn't create Adam and leave Adam and that was it.
Right. Absolutely. Amen. Yep.
So that was my little aside. But okay. I had a really, really strong thought, and now, oh, I know what it was. You were telling your story about your mom, and Greg. No, not Greg. Kevin. You were talking to Kevin, because you had said you would get back to Greg. See, I did have that name in my head.
Okay.
But, okay. So it brought to mind, and it was piercing, guilt piercing. What brought to mind, and I was like, okay, why? And so I had to think it. So this is the story. Prior to my stroke, I worked in a facility that had many beds for developmentally disabled adults. And as you were talking about, we do want to push people to reach their fullest potential. And that has been my motto, my belief, my thought process since I knew my son had Down syndrome. So that's how I interacted with each of these adult individuals.
Sure.
I believed that I wanted them to reach their fullest potential, and they would have programming, much like in schools. They had a service plan, and you had to follow these goals. And I followed it. I followed it to the letter of the law. I did not deviate because I wanted them to reach their fullest potential. Like if someone was supposed to walk from their bedroom to the supper table every night, hell or high water, they were going to walk. You want to know something? I was overwhelming them. I was not, it had become a matter of, it was dogmatic at that point, rather than there was no compassion.
Gotcha.
And the only reason I know that now, remember I wrote that long, lengthy thing about things I've learned on the others. Yeah. How many times have I been in the parking lot? And yeah, I can roll myself from the parking lot to the doctor's office. Yes, I can push the button to open the door, or I know how to get a door open from my wheelchair. But sometimes I'm just tired. I'm overwhelmed. Or I need to conserve that energy that I would use doing all those things in order to do something further in the day. So that I don't become overwhelmed, there are times I do need to realize that it's okay to ask, hey, since you're with me, do you mind just pushing me up to the door? Or do you mind, even to complete strangers, hey, do you mind just grabbing a hold of that door and holding it real fast so I can roll through?
Right. And
it doesn't make me a failure. And that is a mental battle that I struggle with. So many times, instead of Friday with Fran, I think of myself as failure, Fran the failure. And so I have to reassess and think, was that a failure? Was that a fallout? Was that so I have to realize that it's just a different me. It's a different time. It's a different place. It's a different season in my journey. And so that doesn't make me a failure. It might actually make me more beneficial, because I'm able to be fruitful and help others, because I have not wasted those resources selfishly, self-centeredly, and used pride and not allowed someone to push me. in. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah.
I actually, and I know I've said this previously, and I'll say it again, I've actually gone back to that facility in which I was working prior to my stroke, and I've apologized to some of those individuals for lack of a way to describe it, I would say bedside manner, because it was always, come on, you can do it. It's in the, it's your program. You got to do it. It's going to help you reach your full potential. You're da da da. I never had that. Well, maybe they had a really long day at work and they really gave it all. Maybe they're just hurting. They're getting older. I never could see that. I just saw, oh, they were supposed to do this. So I was going to make them do it, whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah. And sometimes we do have to give that extra little push because
so
people can.
Balance of knowing when, though.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's the balance. Man, we're using balance all over the place, and Alex isn't even here with us today.
I know.
She's going to be so impressed when she watches it later.
And she said she will watch it, by the way.
Oh, good. So Greg says the generations that have come before us had it so much harder that we learned to see independence as a strength and not to rely on others. Slavery, the Depression, women's rights, etc. Yeah, just the distance between families, and the type of work that they had to do, because they didn't have all the mechanics and technology that we have today. But now I think sometimes, even though we might not do as much physical labor, I sometimes think that mental labor is harder.
It's different.
It's okay. Yeah, it's a different. I'll go with that. Because
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine.
Where you're going with that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are days when I was teaching, and I wouldn't have to do anything physical as far as moving stuff or lifting stuff, but I would come home exhausted and just want to collapse and not talk to anybody, not have dinner, not do anything except just be a blob.
Right.
But then there would be other days where maybe I had, rearranged my classroom, or I had done something physically that, worked out in the yard or whatever. And then it was a different kind of tired, but I was certainly still tired. And yeah, Mom says, I think we feel obligated to do more because of the fact that the people before us fought so hard for those rights and those freedoms. Yeah, we don't want to lose what they fought for. We don't want to waste their energy and their time and their efforts. So what do you do, Fran? Because like I mentioned before, I had to go to Kevin, when I felt overwhelmed. What do? You don't have a spouse that lives in the house like a mouse. Oh, wait, sorry.
I was going that same direction. I thought, I'm stopping.
I mean, you have your daughter, and she's an adult, but
she's an adult teenager with autism who does not communicate. Her communication is, okay.
Well, yeah.
Meow.
I mean,
Fine.
Even if Kevin's not home, if Violet is home, I don't want to go to her. My mom doesn't come to me all the time especially not when I still lived at home. And she was like, hey, I'm really struggling today. Can you help me out? You don't.
How do I do that? It's been a process, because in some instances, I see the benefits of people that are married and have someone with whom they could communicate and share those struggles, where hopefully they're not judged and where they can help work things out. And I've also and I envy that in some ways. It not envy as in jealous, but I desire that sometimes. But in the same sense, I see that with that added benefit, you also have the responsibility of being there with that person. You can't just freely just go and do, because you are a unit, for lack of a better way. I mean, you're together. Right. Doesn't mean you have to do everything together, but you have to check in with each other. And I don't have anyone to check in with. So that was my aside to that. So how do I do that? Well, sometimes, or most of the time, I've discovered, I used to want to find a person. I wanted to talk it out with a person. I wanted to call somebody. I wanted to write it down. I've shared on Facebook in a Facebook group. I felt that was the only way I knew how to do it. But I have discovered, when I spend time with God and I take it to Him, and I call it my whispering spot. When I just go and I just sit in His presence. It doesn't mean we're even talking. I just sit. Maybe I'll play some praise music on Pandora or something, and just rest. Sometimes that can help me reboot and refocus. As you've said about writing, sometimes I'll write it down. I'll make a list. I'll make a lot of lists. I actually have lists all over the place. Sometimes I find list upon list with a list under a list going, oh, these all say the exact same thing. Okay, since they all say the same thing and they've all been written at different times, do I really need to be doing these lists? Or, as someone just recently said, Fran, maybe you should ask for help to finish some of your lists. It's okay to reach out and ask someone else to do some of these lists. Just because it's on your list doesn't mean I have to accomplish it. Right. And I thought, oh, ding, 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 light bulb just turned on. Oh, the list because it's on Fran's list does not mean Fran has to do that list. It just means that Fran knows this stuff needs to be done. How am I going to accomplish it? And so I'm coming back to the fact that, as one of my therapists taught me a long time, about using my resources wisely. And that we're not talking about just financial monetary resources, material resources. We're talking about even my physical energy and my body resources. What my body can do is a resource. My body is a resource. How I use that body dictates the rest of my day. So if I don't use it wisely, I've used my day, I've used that resource up, and there's nothing left, and there's an entire day left to go. So whose fault is that? That one's on me. And that's a pride thing. And that's what I'm working on. But so what do I do? So I sit quietly, or I'll crochet. But I found the best thing. I think, Greg, you mentioned it somewhere in the comments. Taking a step back. Didn't you mention something about that?
I don't know.
Or I don't remember. But just taking just a step back for just a second, and then reevaluating, reassessing, reprioritizing, and then moving forward from there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I was just checking. I don't see where he said that, but
okay.
He talked about not doing anything because he was procrastinating when he felt overwhelmed. So maybe that's
okay.
Here we go. He just answered. So, when I recognize I need to strike a balance, I have a few close friends and my ex-wife I'll reach out to, and it always benefits me and possibly benefits those I reach out to.
Right. And that's so true, Greg. Finding that, striking that balance, there's that word again. Finding that, and sometimes realizing it's okay. Is it my pride holding me back, or am I just trying to find a balance? And I realized, like when you had offered to come see me when I was in my undisclosed location. I laugh at that now.
Your mystery location.
My mystery location. Yeah. I at first I was like, well, why am I going to bother her? I'm just sitting here. There's nothing going on. And why she has so much going on in her life. And I realized, you know what? I could use just a little bit of feedback, a little bit of balance. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information. I need to process it. And maybe just a little bit of a distraction, because I've been looking at the same walls for quite a while. So I did. I said, please do come up. And it was a breath of fresh air. It was much needed. And did we dwell on everything in there? No, but you helped me sort it out, much like Kevin helped you sort it out that day by just telling you, did you write it down? Mm-hmm. You just helping me sort through some of the information. And then we didn't even stay focused on my health. We went in all kinds of directions that day.
As we do.
As we do, even on. Okay, so guys, this Fridays with Fran, it is way more different. It is no more different than our normal conversations. It just so happens that we're on camera.
Right.
So you're just privy to part of our random conversations.
This is very true. This is very true. And I think that we actually talked about that day that I visited you, and your mystery location was, that we are who we are with each other, whether we're on camera or not. That really we just allow people to partake in and participate in one of our conversations a week.
Right. And you're right, Mom. You don't want to bother somebody, and you want to figure it out. Kind of like, that reminds me when your ceiling fan fell the other day. Did you ever get that fixed, by the way?
No. Oh, Mom. Yeah, she did. My brother fixed it.
Oh, okay. So, even that, do you want to bother somebody? Do you climb a ladder? I was climbing a ladder the other day.
I'm not even going to ask.
Was that wise?
Probably not.
Would it, in hindsight, it would be more of a bother for someone to have to then come get me up off the floor than to have asked someone to come climb the ladder and change the light bulb that needed to be changed.
Right.
So I have to make wiser choices because I want to be around, and I don't want to get overwhelmed. So how are some? Let's go with, and everyone that's kind of still with us, throw out little simple things you do to get through that overwhelming time.
Mom started to type something and then didn't finish her thought yet. So she'll come back to us.
So okay, I said I like to sit in my whispering spot. Mm-hmm. I like to have a cup of hot tea. How about you, Shelley? So just real quick, popcorn these ideas on it.
Well, like I said, writing them down. I'm kind of like you. I'll try to remember, when at first I have to recognize that I'm in that place of being overwhelmed and getting stuck. Yes, take a nap. Oh, I love to take naps. Even when I'm not overwhelmed, I just like to take naps. I don't know if I refused them as a kid, but I certainly don't refuse them as an adult.
Really? I struggle with that.
You struggle with sleep in general.
Okay. Shh, don't tell them that. Wait, they already know that.
Sorry. Nobody heard that. And yeah, so I will, when I recognize it, that I'm in that spot, I will try to take some time. Like you said, I also try to take some time with the Lord. I'll turn on some praise music. And, it's weird because that's one of the times when I realize, or I shouldn't say one of the times, one of the things that I realize, I'm not feeling so great mentally. And then I realize I haven't had my Christian music playing in a while. And that's really become obvious to me with all this pandemic, because used to, I would drive places, and that's the station that's on in my car is one of 2 Christian radio stations that I can get. But because we're not going anywhere, it's not normal for me to have music just playing all the time at home.
Right.
So if I have found that I haven't gone anywhere in a few days, I'm like, oh, I just need a little bit of, either time with the Lord, just him and I in prayer, or reading his word, or listening to Christian music. And, sometimes I'll play the music while I'm in the shower, or, when I'm getting ready in the morning, just to sort of get me motivated and get my head in the right space. So all we have is take a nap. And I know Greg said he reaches out to people.
And I'm going to go with, as you were talking about music or in the shower and stuff. What came to mind was my daughter. She's so funny because she'll be like, I need downtime. I need a break. And she didn't know how to communicate that she was overwhelmed. She would just say, I need a break.
Right.
And because she would come home from school and I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And it would come out probably that quickly as well.
Right.
Because I had all day long to realize the things that needed to get accomplished. So I was waiting for her to get home so we could get them accomplished.
Right.
But all I accomplished was to overwhelm her.
Right.
And she would be like, Mom, till she would blow up. And I didn't realize I was overwhelming her. So now she comes home and I try really hard for the words to come out of my mouth is, hey, I'm so glad you're home. How was your day? Do you want to talk about it? And most of the time it's, and I'm like, okay, well, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm just going to let you chill. But at some point we need to accomplish a few things. And then when I feel like she's had some chill time, I'll touch back. And if I still am getting that same, then I'll give her a little more. And then I'm like, okay, we have to get this accomplished or we're not going to. And I found that her compliance is so much better. Our relationship is even better because I am not overwhelming her with a multitude of things. And I also have to prioritize, is it really that important to get accomplished right now?
Right.
It goes back to Greg's talked about it, you've talked about it, I've talked about it. Choose your battles at various times. You got to choose your battle. And so for me, yes, I really, really want her room cleaned up. I still want her room cleaned up. I mean, we've been talking about this for how long now, Shelley? And it may still not get cleaned up till the day that they refinish your floor, because then it's all going to get boxed up. So it's going to get cleaned up at that point. And you know what? It's okay. It's really okay. As long as I can get in and people can get in safely, it's okay. But so that just reminded me as you were talking about the shower, because she'll blast music, and her music choice and my music choice, they're oh my goodness gracious, they're not even close. They're not in the same universe, I don't think. So, but I know she needs that. So instead of me getting upset, I've learned I either go somewhere else outside of the house, because I have a shoebox house, so I hear it very well, or I put on my own music or put in my earbuds and I listen to the Bible or something, so just from what you share, what Jill shared, what I've shared, Greg shared previously, there is no, the same shoe fits.
Right.
You know the word, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Not everything is going to work for every person. And, our what we each do for ourselves is what we do for ourselves. It doesn't have to be what someone else does. But hopefully, if someone is watching this that doesn't have any strategies, that we've given them some strategies. I know for Kevin and I, when I was a stay-at-home mom, when Violet was really little and he went to work every day, I would pounce on him the second he walked in the door, like you were pouncing on Allie with, just because I hadn't been around somebody who could talk to me all day long. I mean, I could talk to Violet, but she couldn't talk back to me. And we got to a point where he's like, you have to stop. You have to give me time to process my work day. I need that downtime. And so it was a matter of communicating to me, I want to talk to you, but I want to do it after some quiet time.
Communication.
Yeah, that's a crazy word, right? Yeah. And even still, I mean, even once I started working full-time outside the home and he was still working full-time outside the home, I would still want to come home and talk about my day, because many of my students were, as Greg pointed out, he explained the word paraverbal many times ago, because we were saying nonverbal, and I'm like, well, they're not nonverbal. They speak in a way. It's just they don't communicate in, the same way that we do. But so I would still like, oh, let me tell you this funny thing that happened today, or, oh, let me tell you this frustrating thing that happened today. And he still wouldn't talk much about what he does. But now that he's in education, he's like, well, now I know you understand what I'm talking about, where before I didn't know necessarily that you were going to understand what my day was like. So that's been interesting to have that change in our dynamic, as, he's now going outside the home and working, and I'm more inside the home again working. Although he works from home too, doing some other things, doing his consulting stuff. So yeah. And that's, it's, life is constantly changing. That's the only constant. That's the only thing that stays the same is change.
The only constant is change.
Yeah. That's it. That's the phrase. Yeah. And Greg says, I work on picking my battles daily. It's a learned behavior. It really is. And I think that's probably why I would often come home exhausted from teaching, and why I think sometimes that the mental exhaustion is equal to the physical exhaustion, because I would have to, okay, well, this isn't working. I'm not reaching this student. How can I reach this student? What else can I try? Or, I really want to scream at this kid right now, but I can't because that's not appropriate and it's not going to help.
Right.
Or I want to scream at this coworker, or, whatever, or trying to stay a couple of steps ahead of my students always, so that if they did have a unwanted behavior, that I knew what I was going to do, to try to get them back to having wanted behaviors. And yeah, trying to figure out what they were saying to me without
and behaviors are
communication.
I even texted you that the other day, didn't I?
You did. You're like, I don't remember how you said it, but yeah, it was like, our behaviors are not communicating very good right now. But yeah, I mean,
And you asked whose behaviors are not communicating well. And I said both of ours.
And some days you're going to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Some days that happens. But yeah, so you kind of answered the question much earlier in the show of, can you be overwhelmed in a good way? And Greg said it, that he's overwhelmed with the new house, but that was in a good way. How can we be overwhelmed? How can we be buried? How can we be inundated in a good way?
Because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop half the time when you're being overwhelmed in a good way. It's like, this is all going to end at some point.
Okay.
For me, I know. I don't think that's the direction you're going, but as you were saying, I'm like, yeah, it's like, wow, this is so cool. This is so cool. And it's like, when's it going to end? I don't want to get too used to it.
Yeah. And I definitely been overwhelmed in a good way. When, people give me lots of praise for something, that overwhelms me, but it's a good overwhelm. It's a good feeling of being overwhelmed. When someone is tremendously generous to me or some organization that I'm part of, their generosity overwhelms me in a good way. And you had mentioned it, that being with the Lord, that he can overwhelm you in a good way. What other ways can you be overwhelmed in a good way?
The other day I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I knew I wasn't in a good place mentally. So I was doing something I knew to take care of myself. So I went on a drive, and then I reached a destination. I wasn't really sure where I was going to end up. I just knew I was going on a drive. And then I found a path and I had my power chair that day. It was a beautiful day. It was actually Easter, actually.
Oh.
And so I was out in nature. And so I know that is a calming influence, but it was almost overwhelmingly good. I had tears in my eyes as I was sitting there on the only paved path around in this entire place that I ended up. This was the only, I'm sorry, that's a whole nother story. ADA accessibility. Sorry. Coming back. Okay, so anyway, I was overwhelmed with tears. I was sitting on this. Okay, there were this many things that happened real quick.
Okay.
So I came up to this path and I stopped and I was trying to determine, there was a wooden dock in front of me, and I was trying to determine if it would hold the weight of me and my power chair, or if I was going to end up in the water, which could or could not have been a bad thing. It's the power chair. Water, you never know what happens. It's heavy. You're buckled in. I have no idea what would have happened. So I was, rather than find out, if I was debating if it would support me prior to having it not support me. And I didn't realize someone had come up behind me. But then, you know how you sense something. So I kind of looked over my shoulder, and there was this young boy. He was on his bike. He had a couple fishing poles and a tackle box, because it was near a campground. And I said, "Oh, I am so sorry." And he goes, "No, you're fine." I said, and so I just pulled over a little bit, and I said, where did I go the direction you were headed? He goes, "No, I'm actually going to go out on that dock right there." And I said, "Oh," I was trying to decide if it would hold me. And this young boy, he looks at it really seriously. He's like, "It's on cement piers. I think you'll be okay. The wood looks pretty sturdy. Do you want me to go walk on it first to see?" And I just, I was overwhelmed by this young man's caring for a total stranger. I said, "No, I think I'm good." So I zoomed out there, and then I zoomed back some, and I like to take pictures of my day, sometimes just random shots. And I said, "Do you mind if I just take a picture that direction? It's not going to have your face in anything, but you're just part of my day, and I want to capture you as part of my day as you're fishing." He goes, "Oh, no, I don't mind." But so that was that instance. And then I left him, and I zoomed around to the other side, and I got in the shade, and there was this breeze, and I could look into the center of this lake. And they drop, what are those things called? Christmas trees. To make habitat for younger fish and things. So you could see a little island had formed around it, and there was this log, and there was a bunch of bumps. They were turtles. And so I was watching these turtles as they sun themselves. And then out of nowhere, a hawk came flying down.
Oh.
I didn't know hawks ate turtles, but
I don't either.
And I honestly don't know if it was going for a turtle or maybe there was a snake in amongst them, and it could have been going for a snake. All I know is all of a sudden all these turtles went like flying in, water splashing up. But then I hadn't realized it. There was a goose that was nesting right in the center of the island.
Oh.
So, but the goose couldn't get up because it was nesting on eggs. The turtles could jump, and they had all jumped. The hawk was flying in, and I was overwhelmed by nature at that point, because there were so many different things going on there. And I thought, well, some things die, so some things can live. How is this goose going to serve? And it was just, and I was overwhelmed by how things just happen. Things just work out, and things just do. And they're beyond our control sometimes. And we just have to just allow.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And Mom, I got goosebumps too when she was telling the story about the young boy. And now I'm curious, did the hawk get the goose?
The hawk actually veered away.
Oh, good.
And the goose made lots of noise, and eventually the turtles came back. I sat and very still and waited until the turtles came back. Some of the turtles came back.
Awesome. That's good. That's good. Well, our hour is up, my dear.
Oh, okay.
We are down to a very minimal amount of time. So I just want to thank everybody.
Bye.
Greg, Jill, Mom, anybody that I missed, I apologize. If you've liked this, be sure to subscribe, like the page. We will be back next Friday. That's our plan. Every Friday at 1 o'clock, we are here with you. See you all next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.